So everyone sitting in here we're obviously all in college, and we have all gone through some sort of usually public education. For some of us, we attended private school through like elementary, middle, and high school, but we all went through some sort of system to get to where we are. So I'm here today to talk to you about how France goes through their education system and how students, um, I guess, do what we do because they do it pretty differently. Um, the, for everyone that doesn't know, France is like one of the largest, or is the largest country in the European Union. And at one point, they were considered to have some of the best education in the world, but that's a pretty arguable statement now because they've had some issues take place with funding and with changes in their system. But I'm not here to talk to you about that. I just want to talk to you guys about what it is that they do through their different sections of school. So I brought in an apple because for some reason I always like picture students giving their teachers apples as like a momentum of like thank you. And I brought a book because I think no matter what, education is super important. And in the United States and France, we both value it a lot. So, um, so the first part of school, like everyone, we go through like preschool and kindergarten. And kindergarten in France is called école maternelle, which is just basically prepping you for primary school, which is the next step, which is école primaire, which is what we consider elementary schools, usually 6 to 11-year-olds. There's 5 different years, or they consider them more levels, because age and education are always go hand in hand, kind of like it does in the United States. So there's CP, CM1 and 2, and CP, CE1 and 2, and CM1 and 2. CP stands for Cours Préparation, which, just to let everyone know, I'm really new into French, so if I mess up on my pronunciations and you catch me, don't say anything. So that CP basically prepares you for your next 2 years of elementary school, which is CE1 and 2, which is Cours Élémentaire, which is just like general education, and then CM1 and 2. CM stands for Cours Moyenne, which is like middle classes, and those prepare you for your next section of school, which is considered collège, which is basically middle school. It's for 11 to 15-year-olds usually, and this is 4 years of school, and the 4 levels are called Sixième, Cinquième, Quatrième, and Troisième. And these are kind of like what we do. You take classes in like math and science and reading and writing, and you take electives, and this is to prepare you for the most important part of your education, which is called lycée. Lycée is 3 years of education. This is where education becomes very different than the United States. It's considered secondary education. And the purpose is to prepare you for what you call a baccalaureate. In the United States, we pass our high school classes and then you graduate if you pass them. Where in France, you have to pass your classes and you have to pass baccalaureate. In your last year of lycée, you choose an area of study. So there's 3 different to choose from. There's sciences, economic and social sciences, or literary studies, and you choose that, and then you take your test on that, and you have to get a cumulative score of 10 out of 20 or above to pass. If you get an 8 to 10 on it, you can sit in 2 weeks later for an oral exam to try to pass it again. And if you get below an 8, you have to retake your last year of secondary school and retake the exam altogether. Also, if you choose to not sit into that baccalaureate where you choose one of the 3 studies, this is where you can choose to sit into a baccalaureate that pushes you into doing like more of a hands-on job after school. So things like construction or service industry jobs where you can actually like make a really good living, and they prepare you to work in that. So you could also do that. There's also So if you choose to take the baccalaureate exam in one of those three areas, that prepares you to go on to more school um, after the lycée. So which a lot of students go on to universities, which in France universities aren't like universities here where they're not really highly acclaimed. Everyone can go to them. By passing your baccalaureate, you can go to whatever university you want. There's at least one in every city in France, and there's Paris alone has 13. Um, if you choose to do that, um, then there's a lot of different classes you can take, kind of like universities here. And then universities that are highly acclaimed in France are called or Grande École, which is like basically like becoming a doctor or an engineer or some sort of scientist. And those are highly acclaimed and hard to get into, and you have to compete with other students. Most of these universities cost about €200 a year, and you can earn scholarships. And education is pretty inexpensive once you leave secondary school. Um, they some things to know about France is according to this awesome website I found, the average student spends 900 hours a year in school, where in the United States the average student spends about 700 hours a year. But French students still go on more vacations than any other student in the world. So although they spend more hours per day in school, they usually are rewarded with more education throughout the year. And they're so although our systems seem kind of similar, there are a lot of differences, and the three sections are seem slightly more organized than we are in the United States in pushing you to work hard in school. So the so yeah, that's the education system.